Another brick fan with a BrickHeadz set. This is the Phantom Menace. This is set 40676. Was released in May 2024. It has 732 pieces and cost about $55 when it was released. As you can see, this set includes 6 BrickHeadz from 227 all the way through 232. And this is the largest BrickHeadz set I have seen to date. There were a couple others that did 5-packs. In fact, there was a 5-pack of Star Wars earlier. There was also the 5-pack of the Spice Girls, and Harry Potter had a 5-pack as well. This is the first 6-pack, or I would say 5.5, since Anakin here is like a half-size BrickHead, which accounts for the price of $55. And you can see the set includes Jar Jar Binks, Anakin Skywalker, Amidala, Captain Panaka, Qui-Gon Jinn, and Darth Maul. Let's go ahead and get these BrickHeadz built, and then we'll take a look at all of the BrickHeadz once they're put together. Here are the 6 finished BrickHeadz, and I think the most detailed is probably Queen Amidala there in the middle. Right here, obviously, that huge hair build, very detailed dress and everything. One of the bigger BrickHeadz that I've seen. And I also think that Darth Maul turned out really great. It just looks really good as a BrickHead representation of Darth Maul. So let's go ahead and take a look at each one of these individually. Starting with Jar Jar Binks, of course, being the comedy relief used throughout Star Wars, certainly in Episode 1 and beyond. He was also used an awful lot for comedy relief in the Clone Wars, and some of his antics actually really were helpful in some of the episodes, which was kind of fun. Jar Jar looks pretty good here. Got his shirt here. He's got that face that's kind of extended out, which I think is pretty accurate. His ears, of course, are behind him here. So his great big ears are kind of built behind him. I like the fact that his eyes are up above his head, which I think is pretty accurate for the look of Jar Jar Binks. Got some big toes down here and really big feet. So he's got these great big 2x3 feet, which I think the only other place I've seen those is like on the Mickey Mouse figures, because Mickey had really great big feet as well. And he has this nose. I like how they use this rounded 1x2 with the holes in it, kind of give a nostril effect. You don't see a lot of noses on BrickHeadz, but I think in Jar Jar's case, it was one of his distinguishing characteristics. So having that in the BrickHead really does make it look good. Great big ears, of course. I pointed those out. Overall, I think a really good build here for Jar Jar Binks. Next up, we have Anakin Skywalker. This is, of course, the young version of Anakin in his pod racing outfit. And a lot of this speaks to, you know, his status as a poor slave, right? It's a helmet that's kind of been pieced together with these red and gray pieces. So one side of the helmet is red and the other side is gray. I like how they use the binoculars here and this telephone piece to represent the goggles. You can kind of take those off and see his normal BrickHead eyes underneath. But putting it on kind of backwards like this makes it look like he's wearing goggles, which I thought was really accurate to what we saw from the character. As a, 3x3 BrickHeadz, he's just kind of the smaller size BrickHead. Makes sense since he was, I think 9 or 10, I think, in the episode 1. So smaller hands here. He, of course, is carrying his little hammer since he was kind of a tinkerer, liked to build machines and things like that. While he was on Tatooine, he did do a lot of work with machines and things like that. So overall, I think a very good representation of young Anakin as a BrickHead. Next up, of course, we have Queen Amidala, all dressed up in her formal regalia, their formal kind of royal garb here. So there's a very long flowing dress in red. You can see the great big shoulder pads. Her hair is all done in a very large way, kind of like Princess Leia, right? Where we had the two kind of buns on either side, although these are much larger, very square, of course, which fits in the BrickHead theme. The gem here as part of her crown, I would assume. The white makeup with the red dots here. This nice printed piece here as well. Regular hands here. Nice use of these rounded bricks here. So these are basically a 2x2 brick that's kind of rounded with a stud right here so that we can put that together. You might have noticed that during the build. It's a really makes a really good corner piece to give this smooth look. I like how they use these half rounds here in the back to kind of create braids of her hair that go down. So the hair build, as usual with a lot of these female characters, is very intricate. Even though it looks really smooth on the outside, there's a lot of pieces that make this look possible. I like the use of these curved, or these triangular pieces here to create those big shoulder pads on the dress. Of course, all of the gold accents, of course, showing off the kind of royalty and the importance of Queen Amidala as the queen of the Naboo. Here is Captain Panaka, who was the chief of the Royal Guard, if I remember correctly. And again, you can see him kind of in the royal livery here as well. With the red, he has the pale blue accents. He has both metallic silver and metallic gold accents as part of his uniform, which I think turned out pretty nicely. The big helmet or cap piece that he wears here. I'm assuming some of this may be his hair, the brown. I'm not sure. Maybe it's a leather that goes over the sides of his ears and stuff and covers to protect that. More of the silver accents. So there's 4 of those, the one that go all the way around him. Suppose that is his hair back here, or once again, maybe a leather flap that hangs down from the cap. Then here are the gold accents all the way around the head piece, which turned out really nicely. He has one of these little angle pistols here. Remember the Naboo weapons being just a narrow blaster. Of course, you can angle his arm this way if you want as well and put him with his blaster in a firing position. Overall, a pretty good look for Captain Panaka. Up next is Qui-Gon Jinn. Qui-Gon was, of course, Obi-Wan Kenobi's master. We have this really good print of the Jedi robes, the light brown underneath with the belt, and then, of course, the brown robes over the top, which look pretty good. He has this green lightsaber. He has a little bit of shoulder pad, it looks like, kind of over his robes. Maybe that's like the collar of that. Or maybe the collar there. He's got kind of a beard down here. You can see a mustache and a beard kind of built in as well. The hair is nice and smooth on top. His ears out here, kind of a little bit of a braid back here. You can see like there's maybe a clip or something in his hair. The robes in here back behind are kind of tiered with these 4x4, or these kind of tiered with these 2x2 tiles. And then he has his hand here again, holding the lightsaber this way. You can, of course, turn that and have the lightsaber up and down if you want. It does show a little bit of the underlying pieces through the hair build. Not that noticeable, certainly from a distance, but overall, I think a good look for Qui-Gon Jinn. And finally, we have Darth Maul, who is the big bad guy in the Phantom Menace. I like the printing here on this 2x4 tile and this 1x4 tile. I like the use of the yellow and red here to make his eyes. Kind of gives him that really solid alien look. It's got the robes that kind of extend down in the front, so using these two angle pieces to create that robe effect, and there's a little bit of showing through here to like a silver or gray shirt underneath perhaps. All black. I like the use of these pyramid pieces as well on this light tan. They kind of show off the spikes that he had on his head. As I mentioned in the opening, I do think this is really good representation of Darth Maul and a really good look for a BrickHead as well. So you can see his dark skin, ears back here. So he's got the red and black. He's got the red and black molding, you know, red and black coloring, which I think is very accurate as well. So overall, I think this really turned out nicely. Of course, he's got the dual lightsaber, you know, which is kind of his signature weapon. Everybody was super excited about that when the Phantom Menace was first coming out. It's the first time we'd seen a double-ended lightsaber. Let's go back and I'll give you my final thoughts on this BrickHeadz set. Here are all 6 of the BrickHeads that come with this set all together again. This makes for a very nice collection. These are certainly all of the main characters we saw on Naboo and Tatooine during the Phantom Menace, so it was very nice to get all of these characters. Of course, Obi-Wan has been done before as a BrickHead. As far as value goes, I think $55 is just right for this size of a BrickHead set. Although I think it probably would have been nicer to split it into maybe 2 3-packs at maybe, you know, $25 to $30 each. It would have made it a little more affordable, or maybe even 3 2-packs. That way people could pick the characters that they liked. I mean, $55 is probably a little high for some people to want to buy this set. But I guess that's my only real criticism. I think all of the BrickHeads are very solid. They all look very good. There's some really fun building techniques as well as some really good-looking BrickHeads that will fit really nicely into your Star Wars collection, whether or not you're a BrickHead fan. So I hope you've enjoyed my thoughts on this BrickHead set. I'm going to get started on my next video. And until then, happy building. If you enjoyed this video, hit that like button. Be sure to subscribe to see more of my LEGO reviews. I've left a link to my Star Wars and BrickHeads playlists up here on the screen.